Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Eleanor Stead, and I am the Deputy National Giving Advisor for the Church of England. So my job is to help and support parishes and dioceses with encouraging legacy giving, and also just all other areas of generosity and generous giving. I've been in the role almost a decade, and I've just returned from my second maternity leave. So I might be slightly forgetful in terms of words and facts and figures. They're all sort of buzzing around here, just waiting to come to the forefront because I only returned to work a couple of weeks ago. But I think, I do remember all of it. It's in there somewhere. So I'm calling you from Bristol, just on the outskirts of Bristol. I'm originally from South Wales. It's a very grey, murky day in Bristol today. And if you are watching this version, then I'm afraid it is pre-recorded because my 10-month-old baby has had a chest infection all week and just seems to be getting worse, poor little thing, which is often the case, isn't it? They get worse before they get better. So he's having a nap right now, and I'm trying to record this because I tried to record it last night and it was very dark and a bit dingy and depressing. And as we're talking about legacies, I tend to try and be as least depressing as I possibly can. Couple of admin-y things. The presentation will be circulated. My contact details will be at the end of the presentation. If you have any questions or queries, please do get in contact. All the slides which have information regarding where you can go to order the resources or further information, they are URLs and they're hyperlinked. So you should, when you get the presentation, be able to just click on them. Or you can just manually type them into your Google search if it doesn't work. Other thing I would say is I'm making a broad assumption that everybody here is all for legacies. Legacy giving is an incredibly important part of the charity sector and of the church. For charities, it's usually around 60 to 70% of their total voluntary income is legacies. For parish churches, it's around 7%. So it's a lot lower, but it's still around 65 million a year, 4,500 legacies. And legacies are often seed funds, they're catalysts for bigger projects and also for things that are difficult to get people excited about. The majority of legacies are unrestricted. Most people think that restricted legacies are much higher in the Church of England. I mean, they are, but they're still around 35 to 40%, which is still fairly low. So that's an incredible financial opportunity for our parish churches to receive seed funding, large sums of money, which they can use for general purposes. I would also say that legacies are a really fundamental part of our Christian giving. People give sacrificially, people give because they have a love for their faith, for aspects of faith like music, the building, or just because they see the church as a pillar in their community. And legacies generally tend to be less sort of gifts of obligation, sort of we're coming every week, unless somebody tithes, and then it's usually they'll tithe their estate. But for a lot of people, legacies are, I want to leave them something that, they're special to me. This particular church is special to me. And people from parishes often say, well, we didn't know them. And I say, that's not the important thing. The important thing is they knew you. Your church meant something to them. And that's what legacies is all about. It's about that personal connection. So I'm not going to spend the first 15 minutes trying to convince you why you should encourage legacies. I'm assuming you're there, you're in, and what we want to do is increase your legacy giving. So I'm going to share a presentation. Oh no, I know, another presentation. But like I say, I've only been back a couple of weeks and it might help in terms of enabling my brain to function a bit quicker. So, I'm going to have to manually click this. There we go. So before we get going, I just want to start with a legacy prayer. So if we could just have a moment's quiet. Lord of all, we thank you for those who have walked before us in the way of Christ, those who have shared their faith and love with us, and those who have been generous benefactors of church, nation, and world by the lives they have lived, and the inheritance they have left to those who come after. Grant that we may be faithful stewards of all that you have entrusted to us, that all people may know your love, and all creation come to share your glory. Amen. So that's a legacy prayer that my colleague and I wrote. Feel free to use it. It's a lovely prayer. And, you know, prayers are another way of just raising the importance of legacies, monetary, but also memory. Memory and money are very indistinguishable, really, when it comes to legacies. Okay, so how to increase legacy giving? Well, the first thing you have to do is you have to ask. There's no getting away from it. I used to have this as the last slide. Like I say, I've been doing it a long time, but now I have it as the first slide, maybe because I'm getting more sort of grumpy and cranky at my old age, but actually it is the most important thing. It is the number one thing that will increase your legacy giving, is actually just making sure that people know they can leave a legacy. And that's individuals, that's members of your church, that's users of your church, that's people who live locally, that's people who visit your website, tourists, visitors, and it is solicitors. Solicitors often don't know that the individuals can leave legacies to churches. The churches are in fact charities. So you have to ask. And there's a really important stat that came out of the Anglican Giving Survey, which I conducted with 2,000 Anglicans. Don't worry, I didn't go around just knocking on people's doors and saying, excuse me, are you an Anglican? I did use a professional research company, NFP Synergy, and they found that a very low percentage of Anglicans have ever actually been asked to support their church by leaving a legacy. I'm just going to give you a second to imagine a figure in your head. It's 15%. 15% of Anglicans have been asked to support their church by leaving a legacy. And it was around 88% of Anglicans who've been asked to support a charity by leaving a legacy. So that's a big, big gap. Others are asking people to support their charities by leaving a legacy. We should be too. Now then, it's not a direct ask, and I'm going to talk about how you can ask. You know, it's not chugging in the street, going up to people and saying, excuse me, would you leave a legacy? It's about raising awareness, but it is an ask, an indirect ask, but it is an ask. So it's important, as I just mentioned, you're thinking about who you're asking to leave a legacy. So you've got church members and you've got community. A lot of community members leave legacies to their parish church, and that's local residents, but also individuals who've moved away, people who've had hatchings, matchings, and dispatchings, and members of their family who really, you know, these are the most important moments of people's lives: getting married, having children, losing a loved one, losing family members, losing a spouse. The church is there for those meaningful interactions, and you cannot underestimate the impact that has when people are thinking about special people, special organizations that have touched their lives. The church is there. Like I said, visitors and tourists, those are your sort of community groups. But then you've also got your worshipping congregation. They are, in charity terms, your warmest donors. So they are the ones who should be leaving legacies. It's always a bit of a stark fact when you look at the number of congregation members who've passed away in the last couple of years and the number of legacies you've received. They very often don't tally. But legacy giving is a culmination of a lifetime's worth of support. So people who are giving regularly should be thinking about giving a final gift. You've also got a huge number of people who help maintain the church, who keep the church going, and people who use the church, who feel that they belong to the church. So that's church volunteers, groups, friends of, society members. You know, the most legacies that I often see are people who, you know, bell ringers who go around. They do like bell ringing tours. I'm sure it's got a better name than that, but that's what I refer to it as, bell ringing tours. And they'll say, oh, that church, I love the bells at that church. Now, then what you want to do is try not to have a restricted legacy to the bells, but if you have a leaflet there explaining about all the different ways that this church provides mission and ministry to the community, as well as providing excellent bell ringing facilities, that individual might just think, oh, I'll pick that up. And when time comes to leaving a legacy, they'll remember it. So you've got to ask, and you've got to ask a good wide group of individuals, both in the church and in the community. The second way is just to tell stories. So like I said, legacies are very emotive. They're very much about memories, they're nostalgia. And the best way to ask is to illustrate how legacies are being spent. So tell a story. So I've got a lovely story here. Hang on, just going to get a cup of tea. Yeah. And you're probably thinking, oh, that's a fancy chandelier. I can see in the background. It has 18 bulbs on it, and now the energy crisis has hit. We're never turning it on ever again. So it's a terrible shame, but it does look very decorative. That's my husband and late night eBay purchasing for you. Okay, so the story I want to tell you about is Mimi and her love for music, or Mimi and the music. She was an individual at St. Leonard's in Streatham, Southwest. She was a congregation member. She helped out quite a lot in the church. She was a volunteer, and she left an unrestricted legacy of 20,000 to the church. Now, the church wanted to do something that they wanted to do for ages. They wanted to bring music back into the church. So they hired a director of music. They set up an adult choir and a children's choir. 2 years later, they've got a children's choir of 20 children who meet every week and perform every month. And it's just really revitalized the church. And music is so emotive. So many people can connect with music. And as a result, the congregation and the community feel that it's been so beneficial that even though the £20,000 legacy will be spent this year, they're going to increase their giving so that they can maintain the director of music, and they can continue with these choirs and continue to see them grow. And in fact, it's a really wonderful example of a project that a lot of churches want to do, but they just can't justify it when they've got large bills to pay. Now, then you might be thinking, well, if we don't pay those bills, we're not going to have the music. Okay, but maybe you can do 50-50, 50 towards bills, 50 towards a project like this. The main reason that this is a great example is because hearing stories like this and seeing stories like this does two things. First, it provides confidence to church members and community that if they leave a legacy, it will be used to benefit the mission and ministry of the church. Secondly, it inspires other legacies. So off the back of this legacy, the church sadly lost their church warden, Charles, I'd like to call him George, Charles, and he left an unrestricted legacy. And he always complained about the church door and how heavy it was and drafty. So they're going to use the legacy to replace the church door. Generosity breeds generosity. Giving breeds giving. So if you can start giving examples of how legacies are making a difference, you will see an increase in the number of legacies through the church and the community. And it's the same for giving as well. But it's quite specific for legacies, because legacies is often a larger gift, a more emotive, significant gift, and it's a chunk of money. Okay, where do you tell these stories? Just get them everywhere. Just get them down and get them everywhere. Sorry, it's got a notification. So parish magazine articles, newsletters, get it on your website. If you've got a Facebook or Twitter account, you can create a lovely little story like this and just link it to your website content, or you can link it to the Church of England. If you're doing any kind of giving campaign, always mention legacies. You can give one-off, you can give standing order or parish giving scheme. You can give to the organ fund, and you can also give by leaving a legacy. So there we go. We're halfway through. Yay. 2 things you can immediately do: ask and think about who you're asking. And secondly, tell stories. Tell stories about how legacies have benefited you. If you're thinking, we haven't got any stories, we haven't received any legacies, go back through your accounts. I bet you can find stories. And if you can't, make one up about all the things you could do if you received a legacy. Inspire. Okay, the third area to increase legacy giving is to offer a free will. Now then, you might be saying, we can't pay for wills. Well, we, the Church of England, the national church institutions can. So I've been doing this role for 10 years. I've been to every diocese. I've been to a lot of parishes late at night in cold, drafty churches, mainly lovely warm churches with cups of tea and a cake. And I'm always asked, well, if you offered free wills like other charities do, that would be really helpful. And I've always said, look, we've got a £5,000 annual budget. It's 30% of my job. I can't do it. Well, I've done it. I mean, mainly my colleague Helen has helped me do it. She should take all the credit. But we've done it. We've been grinding this axe for 10 years now, and we've finally got 3 years of budget to offer free wills. And we've partnered with Fair Will, who are an online will writing charity, to help us. So you can do it now. Writing a will is a really important part of this story because you need a will to put a legacy in, but actually the Church of England has been encouraging people to write wills for centuries. It's in the Book of Common Prayer here. The discharging of his conscience, you should write a will. Well, you do feel better when you've written a will. My will is outstanding now because I've had a second child, and it's playing on my mind. Also, nobody wants 2 children. Like, people were all like, oh, we'll have them, we'll be the guardians of 1, and 2, they're like, oh, no thanks, that sounds like hard work. I mean, it is hard work, but I need to think, who are going to be the guardians? That needs to change. For the quietness of his executors, it is incredible. Like, the worst thing I think you can do is not leave a will, not write a will, because it is incredibly financially costly and stressful and emotional to administer an estate where there is no will. And then also, whilst they are in health. So this is something that people do throughout their lives. Often they'll write 5 or 6 wills, the average person. Usually their last will includes the last legacy, but that makes sense. But I'm a really big believer that actually, if you write your first will with a charity or a church, eventually there could be a legacy in there later down the line. So legacies are a long game, they're a good game. So why offer free wills? Well, like I said, you've been hounding me for a decade about getting online wills done. I've done it, they're here, use them, just use them. It's easy, it's safe, it's legal, and it's quick. And if you don't believe it, you write your will with it first. I'm more than happy for you to go and write your will, see how the process goes, be an advocate for it. Also, you're here. You're an important member of your parish church. You are one of those significant donors. You never know. You might think, I want to leave a legacy. And there you are. I've asked you directly, indirectly, asked you to think about leaving a legacy. Please don't leave now. I can't tell if you have, please don't. So it's a straightforward, simple will. There's a legal team that check all the wills before they complete. And also, if it starts to get complicated, then you can either, there's a phone line that you can call, you can speak to a member of the legal team, and they'll say, yes, we can proceed, or no, actually, you'll need to see an in-house solicitor for this. Not in-house, a solicitor in a house. You know what I mean? And we're doing this because 30% of Anglicans don't have a will. Like I said, hatchings, matchings, dispatchings, that is often when you write your first will or you review your will. You write your first will when you get married, because if you have a will in your maiden name, or is a husband's name a maiden? Well, in a different name, it's not legal. If you have children, you need to identify and appoint guardians. And also, if there's the death of the spouse, you might want to review your will. So it's a great way of getting people to think about writing their first will when you're doing preparations with them, but also just, it's a good offering. And we're finding 1/4 of those using the service include a legacy in their church. So we've sold under 100 wills and we've got £750,000 pledged. Now then, that is, we have no idea who's pledged that. We don't know where it comes from. You only receive a legacy when it's activated. Just because it's in the will doesn't mean it's going to end up at the charity, but there's a good chance. And I really, really want to see £1 million pledged by the end of the year, because we've made this investment. It's there to benefit parishes. I want to see people writing their wills with Fair Will and seeing that pledged amount grow. So just a couple of slides. This is what it looks like. The great thing about it is it's tailored. So there's an ask. So again, remember what I said? The first most important way to increase your legacy giving is to ask. There's an ask here. They're asking for you. Would you like to include a gift to your church? And the best thing is it's included at the residuary part. So percentages of estates, it's mentioned here. If you say no, that's fine. When you're looking at smaller sums of money, so pecuniary set sums, then it asks again, would you like to set aside a small amount to your church? So it's actually asking you twice. but it's encouraging the larger gifts. Residuary gifts are larger because they're generally wound up with property. Property increases over time, cash devalues over time. So they're asking for you, and you can find your church there. And all you need to do when you go to the homepage, it will give you the voucher code, C of E. You just put C of E in at checkout and it won't charge you. So there you go. That is a very easy, quick win, and it's something that is free to the parish and free to its congregation and church members. And if you're making a leaflet, we're just revising our will writing leaflet at the moment, but you can actually put this in. There's our leaflet. That's what it looks like, and we're just about to refresh it and include information about the free will, and then we'll put that on our website for you to order for free. Okay, keep going. Sip of tea. I don't want to jinx it, but the baby is still asleep. Oh, keep sleeping, keep sleeping. So the fourth way to increase legacy giving is just to make it easy. Make it easy. We try to make it as easy as we can for you because we know how busy you are, and legacies are always left because they're not quick wins, they're long games. So we've got all these materials here free for you for your parish church. You can customize the leaflet and the bookmark. You can put in your own pictures, you can put in your own wording, you can put in your own stories. They're £10, I think, for 50. But I mean, you know, customized is going to be so much better if you've got the time. If not, just get some leaflets at the back of church, just get them out. And then I've also provided some text for you for your website. So it's really important that you have something on your website about giving first, and then you have something about legacies. So you can take any of this text. In the two white boxes is very important information. One is the wording of a will clause, because the proper receiving body is the parochial church council of the ecclesiastical parish in the diocese of, obviously we've got like 700 St Mary's or something mad. So trying to make sure that it goes to the right church. And then also a contact person, because often people want to talk about legacies. Solicitors always want to just say, "Are you sure it's a charity? It doesn't have a registration number." Yes, it is a charity. It's an accepted charity. So try and have somebody from the church there who can just field those generic queries or have conversations, deep and meaningful theological conversations, perhaps. Most of my job is just fielding admin inquiries. If you don't have anybody, you can just always put the National Church. You can put my details, or you can put the legacy@churchofengland.org email address. It's at the end. I'll check. That's a baby brain thing for you. What's the email address? But there you go. That's that. So somebody can come into your church, pick up some information. Somebody can go on your website to pick up the information. I don't know why it says Parish Magazine at the top. I meant to change that. Apologies. But this is some text for a thank you letter, because I know you all send thank you letters to your givers. So you're thanking them for weekly giving, monthly giving, one-off donations, and also you're thanking anyone who's included a gift in their will. That is a prompt. That is an ask. It's an indirect ask, but it's an ask. So just making sure whenever you talk about giving, legacies is in there, because it is just another way to give. Okay, and that's the end of the presentation. I've no idea how I've done on time. Here is the email address. Oh, I did have it right. A website for PCCs and a website for individuals as well. So I will stop sharing. I will send that round. But those are the 4 takeaways, okay? Can I remember them? Okay, so how to increase your legacy giving. Firstly, you've got to ask for legacies, make sure people know you welcome and receive legacies, and think about who you're communicating that to. Church and congregation. Sorry, they're the same thing, aren't they? Church, congregation, and community, okay? Secondly, tell stories. So it's really important that legacies are encouraged and promoted through the medium of storytelling. Stories are personal, they're inspirational, they're nostalgic, and they really give a flavour for how legacies can make a difference. And legacies are there to make a difference. That's why people leave money, to change people's lives. Thirdly, offer a free will. I have no notes, by the way, in case I'm just completely off the whim. The baby fell asleep and I was like, all right, go, go, go. Thirdly, offer a free will, a free online will. They're there, the code is there, I've paid for them, please use them, because there is an ask within that. There's 2 asks, and you never know. An individual might write their first will because they've just got married in the church, and then 20 years down the line, when they're reviewing their 4th or 5th will, they may still be doing it through this fair will offering, fingers crossed. If not, they'll think, oh, I wrote my first will with the church. The legacy that's in my will is to the church I got married in. It was to my family church. Now it's to the church I got married in. I don't know necessarily why. I'm just incredibly sentimental about that church. I have such wonderful memories about it, and my children are going to get christened there this year. And I'm just an emotional soul, but you know, I'm the kind of person you're trying to talk to. So offer a free will. And fourthly, 4 fingers, make it easy. Make sure there's information available. Okay. It's like I said, it's not the kind of thing you just have a spur of the, you know, just a whimsical conversation on the street about. Information leaflets, information on your website, information in giving campaigns, information mentioning it in your thank you letters. Just try and think about 4 different places that you can put it in a year. And then all you have to do is repeat that. Just repeat it. Just do it every year, and you will see an increase in legacies. I guarantee it. All the churches I've spoken to who year on year pretty much receive a legacy, I'm like, what are you doing? How are you different from the churches? And they say, we just do the same thing every year. We just talk about it once. We make sure we have something in our parish magazine. We put a case study on the website. We make sure our congregation know that legacies are important to the church. It's that simple. So I really, really task you. I know it's a long game, but come on, do it. Go back home, do those 4 key tasks, get your PCC on board, just get it up there, order some materials, get some free wills, get the code up there on your website. It's free. And, you know, I think a couple of days work, and then you've got it set up, and then you just need to set a reminder to do it each year. Right, that's me. I'm out. It was so lovely to have this opportunity to talk to you. I'm sorry if it was a bit rambly, chatting very fast, but that's just, you know, coming back to work, having 2 young small children, and working from home. So yeah, it's a joy. It's an absolute privilege to be back. I love doing the job that I do, and if you want to have a chat, leave me a voice message and I will get back to you. Okay, all right, God bless, bye.